Welcome to the Buildology Podcast.
I'm Perry.
I'm Randy.
I'm Mac.
I'm Justin.
We're going to
Help you.
Become a buildologist.
Perry, Randy, Mac, and Justin have a combined 100 plus years of experience in the building and real estate industry.
I can't do it. Okay. We'll do it live.
Okay.
We'll do it live. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live. Thing sucks.
Justin looks like without his glasses on. We'll do it live.
All right, guys. Episode number 8, if I'm not mistaken.
The Ocho.
De Ocho. Well, thanks for tuning in, everybody. We were just having a good time off. I guess we were still online, but we were on the other side of our little deal. So we've got to wish Mac a pre-happy birthday.
Might as well.
Might as well.
Guys, so
yeah.
much. Thank
Yeah, we
you.
had a little off episode there. Mac was talking about how old he was turning, and all of a sudden his hearing went.
We're like, that's what happens. His hearing
First thing
goes.
it goes.
He was talking about his birthday, and his hearing went out, and I had to reach over and fix his microphone. And he's like, all of a sudden, he felt a year younger. I can hear again.
Justin, you're a miracle worker, man.
But we're not telling you how old you are.
We're keeping that a secret. I heard 36, so I was going with that.
I
So
don't know.
it's like,
I just know there were some sixes in there. I
You
don't
can
know
all
what it
stop
was.
right there. Stop
yeah,
right
yeah,
there.
we were good, but the good news is we got Mac's hearing fixed, so we're good there. So let's talk about what show De Ocho number 8 is about today.
What's happening out there in the world these days, guys?
So I think we named this episode "How to Get Burned in a Hot Market." We debated on how not to get burned. We debated that there's too many ways, and so that's how you can get burned in a hot market. That's what we're talking about. All the different ways. Everyone thinks a hot market is just great. Like there's no bad side to a hot market.
Everybody's getting rich.
Everyone,
right?
everyone. If you're sitting on the sidelines, right,
Yeah.
and looking in and going, "Wow, real estate's hot." Everyone's doing fantastic out there. What problem could there be in a hot market? Well, it turns out there's lots of problems with a hot market.
Yeah, because everybody's getting burned in a hot market.
Yes,
Beyond a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah. So I guess I'll throw it out there first of an idea of where you get burned. And so I would say if you're let's approach it from both sides, buyers and sellers, right? And then we'll break some of it up into a buyer side, some of it into a seller side. Maybe even look at the builder side, investor side. All those perspectives are kind of the same, but if we grouped them all into buyer and seller and just eliminated the predetermined people thinking that buyer means just someone buying the new home, that could be an investor because they do buy on that side also. Sellers being a retail seller, an investor seller, or a builder as a seller, right? So if we just said buyer as a group, seller as a group, fair enough for ground rules of defining that.
Let me throw this out there right
Okay.
now. Just let's all talk about pricing.
Okay.
How are home builders being affected by pricing? How is that affecting the consumer? I mean, how is that affecting the trades and the vendors? Because where all the price increases right now are coming into play are way, way upstream of where we are as builders. Correct?
Yeah.
So what are you guys seeing out there right now?
Well, and from a labor perspective, they get misled because they see the prices going up and everyone assumes the builder's making more money. But obviously the builder's costs are going up at the same time and sometimes at a exponentially higher rate. So it's hard for the builder to have his finger on the pulse beat of the pricing and be able to raise prices fast enough to cover his margin.
Right.
And, of course, the consumer ends up paying the price. Unfortunately, that's the way that it ends.
Well, you're talking about how to get burned in a hot market on the builder side. If you haven't set your case in point project I'm working on, 18 to 20 buildings are pre-sold. Costs are going up like crazy this week. It was sheetrock mud, it's PVC, it's copper, lumber, everything. Pipe.
Yeah.
Pipe.
Appliances.
Everything's
Pipe's
going
always
up.
a problem, I
But
tell you.
if you fail to put an escalation clause in your contract, then you're like, okay, so if you're good at what you do, there's a lot of absorption. But if you don't put an escalation clause or a way to come back and go, hey, have the opportunity, we've hit that a certain point where my costs have gone to a point where it triggers this clause, and you give the buyer an option to collect their earnest money back or whatever and get fully out of it. That's one way that builders get burned, essentially, is that you sell them here, but by the time you finish them 6 months later, costs have gone up so much that it becomes turmoilistic in between that.
Right.
So there are clauses you can write in your contract that will at least give everybody the option to continue or not continue.
Right.
And that's one way we're getting burned in a hot market.
How do you address it with the buyer? How's the best way do you show them costs?
Yeah,
you do. The only way that you can do it, in my mind anyway, is just being totally transparent, being totally honest. I mean, we're in uncharted territory right now. In my 41 years in this business, I've never seen anything close to this. I mean,
yeah, this is definitely uncharted territory. What I go back to your point, Perry, was that we looking at from the builder side and the buyer side. So the buyer is obviously worried about their price going up, and then the builder is too. But the builder is basically trying to be a forecaster and figure out what pace is the price going up. And there is no point in time that a builder can, in this market, reference that we've had this perfect storm, supply shortages, not just from inventory of homes, but inventory of product. Like it's not just like, can I get a lot and get something out on the ground? Well, can I get the materials from another country here with all the problems that are going on around the world? That was a good one, how I pulled that off, actually.
That of which we don't speak of.
Yeah, the thing that's out there that we don't speak of. From like that ship getting stuck in the canal. The Suez Canal.
Yeah.
The plumber I spoke to, I think it was late last week, early this week, that was causing the pipe shortage. And, there's always pipe problems. That's what I'm told. Anyways, there's always pipe problems. But black pipe, PVC pipe, stuff like that. And so they have to pick and choose builders at that point that they can just give some supply to, right? And so supply shortage like that, well, plumbing is a critical path thing. If you can't get plumbing pipe, well, guess what? You're not moving to sheetrock. You're not doing anything else. Plumbing's critical path in the construction schedule. So now you've slowed down, and now the builder, why is he going to put another spec home or another thing on the ground if he can't get the material?
They're not going to,
right? Shortage, right? So it's going to sit there, and they're not going to risk the cost going up. So it's too risky of a market to put a spec.
Right.
And so at what point do you go to your buyer? Because when you're pouring the foundation, you've got pipes and so forth, and you've got cables and you've got concrete, but you haven't started the framing yet. Right. So then do you wait until you go to the framing, and now you've got sheetrock increases?
Yeah.
Do you wait until you go to sheetrock, but you've got appliances that you have to order 6 months in advance?
I think part of the problem is that a lot of the vendors that we've all worked with for years, their forecasts were not accurate. I mean, third and fourth quarter of 20, they were talking about, hey, vaccines coming along, the thing we shall not speak of. And, as long as the vaccines kick in, then everything should be fine. But the problem is that didn't work out that way. Prices went absolutely bonkers in the last 6 or 8 weeks, and they're still climbing. And so this is, completely different than what we were all hoping for.
Yeah, no one anticipated. In fact, I would actually, I think you nailed it right on the head. The forecasters missed it, but they missed it 180 degrees the opposite direction. Exactly. They were actually saying that, there wouldn't be, this is going to be a housing, it was over. Housing was done for. Here comes 2008. Here comes 2009 again, right? Yeah. That's what they were preparing everyone for. So every builder was like, nah, I'm not doing that. And so they stopped all their inventory. They pulled out even the houses they wanted to build. They were like, no, let's not do those. So they pulled the plug on inventory. Now you don't have any supply. They couldn't get it out there if they wanted to because of the material shortages. Right. So you have this catch-up factor that we were talking about off air that rolls over into the resale market. Mm-hmm. And so now that's what burns those people in the resale market, because what drives it is, I want to sell my home and buy a new home. Well, added a resale home to the market. But if you're not buying a new home, there's no resale home getting added to the market.
Right, because you have a place to move to. You can sell, more than likely in today's market, you can sell a resale. You could sell the home you live in today.
Right.
But where are you going to go? Where are you going to move?
Right.
And that's true for apartments. That's true for rent houses. That's true for new homes. I know an investor, for example, that he put a house on the market that sold. He had 12 offers in 2 days, and he sold. But his tenants had no place to go to, and they felt abandoned by him. They were very bitter towards him because the houses they had to move to cost 50% more than where they were living.
It's the nature of the beast right now. As
is.
crazy as this sounds, I have customers I'm dealing with every day that have sold their home. True, they sold it at a record profit in record time, but they have fifth wheels and RVs. They can't even find a place to park the RV or the fifth wheel right now.
Yeah,
everything is booked up.
So you added basically in the market of fifth wheel spaces, you have full timers, right? That take
RV parks.
RV parks, right?
Right.
And they have full time people because of oil and different things like that. That they need short term housing. They want
transient workers.
Yeah, they don't want to buy something, get locked in. Now you add people that sold their house.
They have a need, a desperate need.
Yeah.
Well, you're talking about with the production builders are actually not slowing down on construction. Is what I'm seeing. When I build next to those guys, they're still putting homes on the ground. They're not taking any to-be built orders, so no contract orders. But what they're doing is, so neighborhood right next to where I have one of my projects, there's 2 production builders in there. One of them is going like gangbusters. The other one hadn't even started yet. But the one that's in there, they've got their model home in. It's in place. There's no power, so they run off a generator. But they've got all these spec homes on the ground. But what they're doing is they're putting them on, and when they're finished or getting real close to finished, they're not even having grand openings until then, because what they're doing is they can set their prices at the current market of what it is.
Yeah.
Right.
So they will put them on they have to be. Those guys are publicly traded.
Yeah.
They can't stop building
No,
because
You
there
can't.
is a wave if there's a dip in their production that will affect their stock price.
You can't even buy one of those homes if you
Not
want
right
to.
now.
No.
You can't. They're not for sale. So
I'm
what they're
hearing that
doing is
from
they're
all
getting
over.
them finished, and then they're looking at where market
Yeah.
price is today, and they're
Right.
setting it at that time versus when
Yeah.
you normally would have done and priced as soon as you started it. They're pricing it at the end.
It's happening all over the place.
But they
right
have
now.
to continue production because they can't, being publicly traded, they can't have lags in production. You
And they've
have
got
to
to keep
it
their
moving.
trade base busy
Correct.
and all that good
Correct.
stuff.
Yeah, that's a finely tuned machine that you got to feed it to keep it going.
Right.
It's well capitalized machine.
Yeah, well
Because
capitalized.
the small builders that are doing less than 50 homes a year can't build homes speculative and then wait till they finish and then price them and then
Right.
sell them.
It's obviously the much larger companies that have the money to move
Right.
around to do.
But then when you look at starts in the city, that makes a big, new construction starts. Like that's a huge portion of what, influences the market basically in the Sun Belt down here, is production builders, and East Coast and West Coast, Middle America might be slightly different than that. But, our neck of the woods, that is definitely a contributing factor of, and that directly affects, if you can't buy that home, right, under construction, what percentage of homes was that were purchased under construction? It'd be not all of them, but it was a big portion of them.
Very large.
A very large portion of them, right? And there's uncertainty. If you wanted to sell your house and you see this nice new neighborhood over there, I want to move there, and they won't sell you the house. Well, your house isn't coming on the market either.
And I know in communities like in Austin, for example, they only sell 5 a week. If they have certain numbers, they release 5 homes per sale each week.
Yeah.
And you have a lottery to buy one of those 5. And if you miss out on that opportunity, you wait till the next week and the next week, and you're in line.
Right.
And I'm never lucky at a lottery, so I'm never getting one.
We've all been waiting for that.
Yeah,
that chip to come in.
exactly. If I'm in a lottery situation, count me out. I'm checking that one off.
So,
I'm like,
so how to get burned in a hot market? Like if you're selling a home, I mean, how do you get burned as a seller? Like you're wanting to improve, you're moving, you need a bigger home.
I see 2 ways.
Lifestyles. How does the seller get burned in the hot market?
I see 2 ways that they get burned. So they list the house assuming that they can find the replacement house. Right.
That's the biggest one.
That's
Biggest
super
trick.
scary. No one's heard of this scenario, right? So the untrained public that doesn't deal with this every day, why would they even have an inkling of what's going on in this market. The news doesn't cover this problem. Like, unless you're tuned into this podcast and someone's telling you, that's not a lot of information that the builder gets out. They surely don't run ads saying, hey, guess what? Can't buy our house yet.
It's on on page 3 of the Wall Street Journal.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So you have to go searching for that information. So the average consumer does not know that this problem exists. So why would they stop calling up their realtor going, hey, let's list my house? The realtor would probably be the first one to tell them, like, where are you moving to? He's like, oh, well, I wanted to move here. And he's like,
well, we'll start looking when we get a contract.
Yeah.
No, most sellers, most consumers that are sellers are not risk takers.
No.
They're not gamblers.
No.
In today's market, you don't have a choice.
You don't have a choice.
Because if you don't sell, if you don't have your home, if you're going to pre-sell your home and you don't have a place to go to, you're stuck.
You're stuck.
And so you more than likely have to go find the home you want to move into, put money down on that, get the loan approved on that, and be ready to, in essence, have 2 mortgages, have the risk of 2 mortgages, then put your old home on the market and hope and pray that it sells quickly.
Well, let me ask you this. Excuse me, given, because that brings up a question. So given today's market conditions, selling a home, not having a place to go to, is the real estate market adjusting to that? Or have you seen anybody put programs together that kind of pairs that together and says, hey, I'll sell you the home and then help you sell the home? I mean, are they starting to put that together?
I do see advertisements for realty groups that will guarantee the buyout of your existing home if you go ahead and buy the new home, and they'll guarantee the buyout of the old home. I actually have investors that will do that also because the market is so strong.
Okay. Yeah. So if you're wanting to sell, getting burned because you don't have a place to go to, right? So what you think the value of your home is, selling it, and if that is any delay in doing that, the value of your house is going to change drastically. So the good news is it could go up, right? Ooh, look at that. We got
Hot dang. Is that from above? What's happening here?
We have a caller dialing in. That's one of the options.
Please make it someone interesting. It's not our plumber, is it? I need to talk to him.
Out there?
It's a price increase. That's what that is.
No, that's what it was. It was definitely, they were calling us on the show live, telling us, listen, you guys were talking about pricing. It's going up. That was the alarm for the price going up.
Didn't we tell them this was pre-recorded and it's not live right now?
When it goes up more than $10,000 an hour, that little alarm goes off.
Yeah, that little alarm goes off.
I got you.
Yeah, it was actually our first call-in caller calling in, but we decided not to take the call. Probably trying to sell his car insurance or something.
They want to talk about your extended warranty.
That's it.
But you bring up a good point, because that is the challenge with getting, where are you going to move to, and what are you going to do, and how can you afford 2 mortgages? And if you're not a risk taker, if you're a very conservative individual, you lose sleep at night worrying about that. But in reality, you can't worry about that. You have to have faith that your home, based upon the market, is going to sell.
Right.
And it will. It will sell. I can't.
You know, and everybody asks me, so what's causing all this crazy pricing and everything escalating so quickly? And you can't talk about rising prices without addressing the supply and demand equation, which is completely out of whack. I've never seen anything close to this. And where's that demand coming from? How much is demand up right now? What have you guys heard out there?
Well, I think I've read, you know, that's kind of weird when you read national stuff. So national stuff is very inaccurate when you talk about real estate because it's so local, right? Like Houston is different than Dallas, is different than Austin,
right,
and different than San Antonio. And I've seen that a lot of times as people try to, out in the lay world, they try to look at the national thing and they'll see
look at an average. Or
right,
something.
exactly. Yeah. There's a news article that they hear, right? They're like, oh, real estate is X. We saw that in the downturn, right? So we're looking at the upturn now. That was so apparent in the downturn that the national news was like horrible, but where we were in Texas right here, it wasn't near as bad, right?
Yeah,
so
it was business as usual.
Florida and California ate up the news cycle, right? There's just like the world's ending. Yeah, the world was ending in that, but it wasn't near as bad here as it was there because the markets are we have an influx of people, right? Yeah. And so I look at that national news and I basically ball it up, throw it out, and I try to get my local information. I think that would be the most important thing for someone to do is go out into the market, ask a realtor like what they're seeing in their market, in their neighborhood.
And it's all a guess. I mean, let's face it. people say to me all the time, how long is this market going to last? Well, I can tell you my gut. I can give you my opinion. It's all a guess.
Right.
No one knows.
Yeah. And at the experience level that it takes to even be in this market and make the guess, right? The forecasters that we go to, they got it all wrong. Right? They missed it.
And so at the end of the day, what's driving all the builders and even a lot of the suppliers and the consumers, what's driving everybody crazy is the uncertainty. Because nobody knows what rates are going to do. Nobody knows what prices. When's it going to plateau? When's it going to start coming down? Those are all unknowns.
I did hear, and this was good. This was a relief that I heard this on the news this week, that they don't expect interest rates to climb at all the rest of this year.
Right.
They'll remain low. That's
Right.
good. That's from a buying perspective. That's great.
Right.
Refinancing perspective. That's great. But if the prices continue to go up, then the interest rates don't have to increase.
Well, the thing is that you have to look at, that's such a complex deal, because the interest rate is the government's tool to deal with inflation, right? And so this is what I worry about when I zoom out to 30,000 feet and look at it. So you have record levels of money being injected into the economy, which is, an inflationary thing, but you have record levels of unemployment, which is a deflationary thing. And so at the exact same time, the answer to record levels of unemployment is pump money into the system to balance it back out. But as an unemployment we're starting to see creeps in, right? The effect of all that cash, you can't take it, but you can add jobs, but how do you take the money back out? You injected it in, right? So when we see prices start to creep up because unemployment, now everyone's getting a job again because of the unknown thing that we can't talk about on YouTube that's out into the world, right? Starts solving itself because of the things that you get in your arm. I'm not even sure I can say that. So, but once that starts correcting and you get jobs back, you have all the cash, right? And so one of the measurements of that, I agree that for 1 year, it's going to take those jobs to come back into because we're into this year a pretty good point right now, right? So 6 more months of this year, jobs start coming back. We start getting pre-last year, pre-event levels, right? Can't take the cash out. That's why they're saying, okay, the interest rate's going to be low. But at some point, there's going to be inflation. We injected 40% of our total money supply in 1 year. If you look at the graph, it goes like this. There's a graph, I'll do it for the camera. It's like this, and then it starts going up, right? And then there's 1 year it goes whoop, like that. 1 year, 40% of our total money supply got injected last year. But we had record levels of unemployment like never in history before. So it was the right answer to put it in.
Well, we're seeing,
that's the right thing to do in that situation.
You're right.
It's the right thing. Increased prices. I mean, fuel costs are going up. Everybody's seen that at the pump, and that's affecting, again, diesel. We're seeing it now in shipping costs, and that's being passed on to the suppliers, to the builders, and to the consumers.
So exactly what you're saying is true. Your question, Perry, earlier when you talked about, I'm not sure if we were on air when we were talking about, well, does the price ever go down? And we talked about all the things. There was been labor shortages in our market. There's material shortage, sheetrock shortage, lumber shortage. We've dealt with all those stuff before, right? Mm-hmm. But never did we inject a bunch of cash into our economy to solve it at the rate that we just did. So how can the price, if you're sitting on the sideline, how can the price come back down when we injected all this money and your money doesn't buy as much as it did yesterday? That is the definition of inflation.
But
so
we
the
also
price isn't
had,
going down.
in the past, when we look at over the past many, many years, we've all done this, we knew what the impact was for that one spike. So
right.
We knew there was a sheetrock shortage because of something that happened in China. We knew that there was when Harvey came and there was a flood, we knew that the wood floors and the carpet, and there was going to be a shortage there.
Yeah.
And sheetrock again. But now it's everything across the board. Right. I mean, from the top to bottom, from concrete to roofing, we've got increases across the board. And there's really no tangible aspect we can put our hands around. We can't say there's a snowy white owl up in the woods that won't allow trees to be cut down.
I don't know if you can say that.
Those snowy white owls. I'm telling you, those things, speaking of snowy white things, our cat is gone. I forgot to put the cat back up. I think he ran into that forest.
Wow.
So
okay.
next week I will have to tease him out, and I'm not sure why the cat is gone, but this is the second episode the cat's bailed on us. So
Yeah, that's
so
not good.
snow,
Hey, that
snowy
water's
one.
moving.
Water is moving. Yeah, you have to pay really close attention to it.
I'm getting seasick.
Yeah.
Hey,
yeah.
but to answer your question is prices do come down when we quit buying it.
Yeah.
But that's not going to happen anytime soon.
No.
Right.
So to answer the big question in my mind,
How do you get
how do you get
burned?
burned in a hot market is best way is you don't participate in it, because if you're not acting now, all indicators is that it's going to cost you more tomorrow, and it's you act now or forever hold your peace, because
And that's
we don't. There's
that's
no indication.
You
that it's
answered
gonna
the
get better
question
anytime
with
soon.
that. Is the perfect answer is not to get burned is if you're selling a house, and if you didn't sell right now, at least inflation is working with you and your asset is increasing in value. Right.
The real gamble is waiting to see what's going to happen with interest rates.
Yeah.
You're waiting on prices to come down, and the interest rates go up, you're going to take a double hit.
Yeah.
Right?
But look at it from this perspective. Excuse me. In a market like we're in, there's opportunity across the board for all of us. Because investors, if you've ever wanted to invest in a property and you can get into a property and invest now, you know you're going to be able to sell. It's going to be a quick turn. If you want to sell the property you have, you can do that. If you want to buy a new home, it may be difficult, but interest rates are low.
Yeah.
So
It's a
you've got
great
buying
time to do
power.
it. If you can
is a good
find it,
time.
it's a great time to do it.
Absolutely. So there's plenty of money to be made for investors, for anyone that's willing to take the risk. But you have to be a risk taker.
Yeah.
Simple
Yeah.
as that.
You know,
Yeah,
it's
I
really.
think-
Sorry, go ahead, Matt.
I was going to say, I think advice to anyone out there that's looking right now, if you haven't talked to your lender in the last 2 weeks, I mean, that's how quickly this has been changing. But lenders are telling me now they're kind of adjusting their guidelines because of all the crazy volatility in the market right now. So if you're out there and you've started the loan process or thinking about it, my advice would be to put a call into your lender and start asking, hey, what is the current market? How has it affected your lending guidelines?
And there's one sector of the new construction side of this that is not actually participating in this game.
Yeah.
The for sale builders are participating. They're watching current conditions as they exist now. It's a short term build. They go whatever. The ones that are doing the new construction for rent properties, they're not actually participating in that worry.
Right.
They're watching costs. It's a whole different pricing strategy on that end.
Right.
They're watching it, but they're not participating in that because that return is over a much longer period, and they're going to keep push. They don't have to.
Right.
They're still going to worry about the lumber they're buying today, and trust me, they worry about the lumber they're buying today. Speaking firsthand,
But it will work
but
itself out in the long haul.
it's supposed to if the plan is right and everything works right. So they're thinking long haul return. So that's why you see such an increase in that industry right now. Is that that is almost a little bit of inflationary proofs per se, because that's a whole different segment and a whole different strategy.
You're buying an asset, right? So anytime you look at assets at that point in time in inflation can actually help you at that. It can help you at that point. So
as I mentioned before, if you're an investor, it's a good time to get into the market because
great time.
You're going to be able to rent that duplex. You're going to be able to buy that fourplex. You're going to be able to put it on the market. You're going to have good long-term rental opportunities.
Well, think about what that does to rent, right? I mean, as prices go up, rent's going to go up.
True.
That's right.
Right. And so that affects everything. That rolls over all into the commercial market, right? So what the effect of this is as rents go up, well, if you're renting a place and you sell something and your rent went up, your fixed costs went up. And so now you have to raise prices. So commercial real estate rents also translate into inflation and your dollar not buying as much and stuff like that. So it's another thing to kind of keep an eye on. Us in the real estate world have to also keep one eye over on the commercial world and say, oh, rent's going up. That's going to change my neighborhood. Like, can they afford that place? Right? If they can't afford that place to sell at that higher item, they may leave and go somewhere else. And you have changes in commercial, and changes in commercial affect residential neighborhoods.
But it's the dynamics of the commercial real
Complex.
estate industry have changed tremendously in the last.
So if you
16,
think
18
about the
months.
type of investor that invests in new construction rental, it's a whole different ballgame than it was just 10 or 12 years ago.
Right.
Yeah.
Old, traditional someone or a group owns a few homes, they build their portfolio over time. That's not there anymore, because now what we're seeing is huge institutional investors coming in and ordering 100 buildings at a time. Right. And so it's changing. It's really morphing as we live through it right now. It's very interesting.
Well,
but if you want to get into the investment world, you can. You
Sure.
can build, you can buy a duplex, live in one half, rent out the other half.
In fact, I know a few that you can, if you really want, like, reach out to us in the comments, because I'm not sure we have any for sale at this point.
We have opportunity.
Yeah. If you want to build one, I guess from scratch, because they're all pretty much sold. So
yeah, we're just building to close right now.
Yeah, building to close. So. Guys, you won't believe this, but there went half an hour just like that. So if we were to sum up the how to get burned in a hot market, there's several ways to get burned in a hot market. But I think
Randy had a great point. The best way to get burned in a hot market is to not participate.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah,
that's the number one thing. Yeah. If you don't participate, you're going to get burned.
Yeah. So fantastic episode, guys. So episode number 8 in the can. I don't think they use cans anymore.
Really, who was that calling on your phone earlier?
Oh, that was my mom.
Oh, okay.
That was my mom.
Your mother on this show would be a
she
hoot.
would be
She'd
awesome.
Be great.
She
should have dialed her
If I
in.
would have prepped her, she would have been so embarrassed, though, if I would have answered the phone.
Your
but
mother embarrassed is very funny.
Oh, that would be funny. Yeah, that would be good.
Without prep.
Yeah, it would be funnier without prep.
It needs to be without prep.
But you sent her to voicemail. Every mother in the world is disappointed.
I should have answered on air, right? That would have been awesome.
That'd be fun.
That would be awesome on air. We missed a super good opportunity.
There's 12 seconds we just talked about your mother.
But we won't end without saying again, happy birthday in advance.
Thank you very much.
And we're super happy that it got his hearing back.
Yes, I was worried there for a second.
I'm amazed.
Because I was going to tell you something important, like, oh, did it happen again? Okay, just kidding.
I'm gonna have Justin lay some hands on me. I've got some aches and pains in my joints. I'm gonna see if maybe he can heal that for me now.
I'll get the snake out of the cupboard over there, guys. All right, guys. Well, we will catch everyone next week. So we appreciate it.
You can just build him a new chair in the shop downstairs.
I will.
Okay.
We will.
And somebody go out and find the cat.
We will find the cat.
Yeah, I miss the cat.
Yeah.
And give us some questions. Give us some comments for next week's show.
Yeah. Sounds good. All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everybody.